Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. So we're learning how to cut a pencil skirt with an overlapping slit. So here are the measurements we'll be needing. Our hip, divide by 4. Then whatsoever you get, you are going to be adding your seam allowance to it to cut a rectangle like this. So 2 inches for the seam allowance. Then the waist as well, divide by 4 plus 2 inches for the seam allowance. So you measure it this way. So I'm using a brown paper, so I did not add the seam allowance to it, but on the fabric I'm going to be adding the seam allowance. The waist to the hip is 9 inches, so I ruled it out. Then I went up by 1 inch, then I came down by 1 inch as well. So I calculated my waist. That's the waist divided by 4. So whatsoever you have there, you mark it out. Then should in case you want to add a dart to it, you also add your dart allowance. But in this situation, I'm not adding a dart to it, so I'm going to connect this down to this like this. So you can also use your ruler as well to do the connection. So at the new part, you mark 1 inch forward, mark 1 inch forward, then you connect it to this one that's below here. You connect it like this. You connect it like this. So we're done with the front. So you go ahead and cut it out with your scissors. So you cut it out like this. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you find this video helpful. So when you're done cutting, we're going to be placing it on our fabrics to cut. So this is the fabric here. I'm going to be adding my seam allowance of 2 inches. I just want to add it at the center. So since the skirt does not have a dart, but assuming your skirt has a dart allowance, you added dart allowance, you have to add the same allowance to the side. But this one I just decided to add it at the center, so please don't get confused. You can add it at the side as well. So you go ahead and cut it as out like this. Don't forget to add your folding allowance, which I added to the skirt already at the down part. So you go ahead and cut it out like this. So when you're done cutting, you place the front and use it to cut the back. So at the center, I'm adding 5 extra inches to the measurement, 2 inches for the zip allowance, then the other 3 inches is for the lapping. But you can reduce the measurement, you can make it 4 inches, 3.5, depending on how overlapping you want the slit to be. So from this point, I determined where I want my slit to be starting from. So that's when I connected it. So you give it a curve like this. So basically this is it. Then you go ahead and cut it out. So cut it out like this. So make sure your fabric is well placed. Then you slit this side as well and cut this side. Remember, we already added the seam allowance to the front, so there's no need for seam allowance again at the back. So that's why I'm cutting using the back pieces. So the next thing you're going to do is to go ahead and cut the lining. Go ahead and cut our lining. because if your skirt is not going to be having a lining, you can still leave it that way. But this skirt is going to be having a lining. So we're going to go ahead now. I'm going to cut my lining. So I've gone ahead to cut the lining, but at the down part of the lining, you reduce the length. As you can see here, I reduce the length of the lining both back and front. The lining will not be the same with the fabric because I'm going to be turning the whole fabrics with the lining. So at the end of it all, I went ahead to stitch. So this is what it looks like. This is the inner part of the cloth. So I just want to pin it in place now. Then I'll be uh, drafting or trying to check my measurements, connecting the necessary parts together. So ensure you pin your fabrics in place like this. So I have to cross check my measurement to be sure I'm working with the right measurement. So that's just what I'm doing basically here, adjusting the necessary parts I need to adjust. So you divide your waist by 2 as well. So whatsoever you have left is the seam allowance. But you remember that originally we added 2 inches for the seam allowance. But it's also very important for you to check it very well to ensure that the seam allowance is the same. So I have marked the two sides. So I'll go ahead and sew now. So this is our band. What I did was to cut 5 inches long by the waist that I have. So I went ahead to put the clothes and the stay on it. So as you can see me do, after gumming the stay, I ironed it. So this is it here. You pin it in place to ensure that you are sewing correctly here. So after pinning, I'll go ahead and sew. Go and sew. So from this part here, I ironed it to ensure that it really aligned very well. So the half inch I'm going to be sewing, I've already ironed it in place. So I'll go ahead and sew it like this. So I'm done sewing. So I'm going to flip the other part on it. Like I don't want the rough part of the joining to be obvious inside. So I'm just going to be covering it. So this is how you fix it. I'm going to pin it in place. This pin is actually giving me issues. So I'm going to pin it in place like this. As you can see me do, I've already ironed it, so which made it very, very easy for me. So I'm going to have to pin it in place like this. So after pinning, I went ahead to sew. So this is what it looks like from the outside and the inside. So the next thing you're going to do is to fix the zip. So you remember we added 2 inches for the zip allowance. So after everything, we have 1.5 left for the zip. So you're going to fix the zip like this. Then you're going to sew it down. So we're going to do same for the both sides. So guys, this is the outcome of the skirt, and this is the overlapping slit. This is how it's going to look like. So guys, thank you guys for watching.